of providing information, awareness, and resources to the community as it pertains to the faith based community and our seniors. And right now, we are live. Denise, what's up, Queen?
Good morning and happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, man. I just
20
love me some Denise. Every time your name is mentioned, I start smiling and I said, that's a beautiful thing. And Happy New Year, my sister. How are
Thank
you?
you. I'm doing well. How are you doing, my brother?
You know, Denise, I told you, and I say it every time and all the time. I was coming up, I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning, excited, like this was the first time I had the opportunity to come in to do this show. And I said, God, thank you for liking and loving what you do. And so,
That's
getting the chance to be with you and some of these listeners who are snowed in today, it's been a beautiful thing.
that's great. That's great. I'm always lifted up by your spirit. So thank
Thank
you
you so
for
much,
always being
Queen.
that way.
So
So,
tell me what's happening. Sokoa Aging and In-Home Solutions, as we know, providing information, awareness, and resources to the seniors over 50 years. And we're trying to get people more acclimated and introduced to how to provide these resources and gather these resources, and especially bringing the faith-based community into the fray.
yeah.
So take it from here, my sister.
All righty. Well, I think I'm a little out of the swing here a little bit, but I'm gonna do my best.
I
So
got you by the hand.
okay, I appreciate that. So, as you know, I don't know, I've talked about since we had our Faith Summit, November the 13th, which was a wonderful event at Ivy Tech. They did a wonderful job of hosting us. People were pleased by the programming as well as by the food. So, if you make people happy with the food, then they're happy for the day. So it was great. We had, our focus was really on dementia and looking at what are some of the things that people can do to prevent that for themselves. What are ways that we could live healthy? The other part was hearing the stories of people who are living with dementia, which is something we don't always get to hear. So we had a wonderful panel with Pat and Rafiq Bashara. And one of the interesting things I think that they brought out was the fact that Pat said that she really noticed that something was going on even before she was diagnosed. And I think that's the thing that most people may notice is some things are going on, but they don't really know, is this really what should traditionally be happening? Or is this something that's just a part of my aging stage? So that as we can continue to give that information to people and help them to understand what are some things that should be just a part of aging, but what are those things that you may want to say, wow, maybe I should talk to my doctor about that. And so when she did that, I think the having the family support was important, and also the fact that they then started looking at what were some opportunities when it came to research in these new medications that are coming out. And so the thing that I always try to tell people is there are medications that are coming out. They will not prevent dementia, but they will slow down the process for people who have early diagnosis. And that's the key part, is to be able to go in early and talk about any concerns that one may be experiencing when it comes to memory, when it comes to their daily functioning, when it comes to communicating. All of those particular things can play a role in that. And so, as we're continuing to learn more and more, and we definitely want to eradicate this disease and get rid of it. But I think if it in situations where we see that people are getting better and they're being more stabilizing for a while, that's really hopeful at this time.
I'm gonna pause right here because it's a few things I want to catch up on. And you were talking about the Faith Summit with the great couple, Rakifa and Pat. And the one thing I want people to understand about Alzheimer's in particular, one of the diseases up under the dementia umbrella. I like to say this all the time, Denise, because we have to have people aware every time we get the opportunity that dementia is the house or the umbrella, and Alzheimer's is one of the diseases that resides in that house or under that umbrella. And specifically, Alzheimer's, when we were listening to her, if you were having a conversation, you would never know. And
All right.
so that is the tricky part about this disease, is because people don't understand the stress that the caregivers and the loved ones are going through, because you will watch her in that environment and would never know. And as he
Exactly.
says so eloquently, when I go home, I got hell to deal with, because who you're seeing right here might not be who I go home with.
Yeah.
And to understand that and be sympathetic about that is
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that I wanted to point out. And then you were talking about the medications that are kind of slowing down and helping us understand the disease better, and
Mm-hmm.
how, as a community, we have to participate in the research more so
Yes.
those medications will work in our community.
True, true. Yeah. And so, and it's always interesting to me as I talk to people in the community. Oftentimes they're saying, yes, I know, my grandfather or my grandmother or maybe an aunt or uncle. And then they often are questioning, what is this going to mean for me in the long run? And so that's why it's important to really not only know that, but to do something about it. And I think that's the part that we've tried to educate people with. I think there's a fear, right? But if you go in and start, kind of getting a baseline for where you are, then there's definitely a hope and more opportunities, I would say, in one's life. Because one of the things when I think about Pat is the fact that not only, she said I forget, and she said I interrupt people. So that's one of the things that oftentimes happens, because now that change in the brain is not where I'm gonna stop and listen to what somebody else is saying. But she said sometimes I'm trying to get it out before I forget it, right? And so just even in that, that process, that change of behavior. But she did great with notes. She did great with me prompting her with questions and everything. And so those type of things mean that not only am I changing, but I can learn to navigate within those changes. And I think that's what's important for people to understand. Not only that, yes, I'm dealing with this, but I also can continue to maintain my life when it comes to still being involved in my community, still doing those things that I really enjoy doing that are very important. And what I love that she did was she talked about what she would like for people to do for her when she's unable to tell them what she would like. Like she said, I like to have my hair brushed. I love music, so being able to hear music. I love to play games, card games and things like that. So I think even that, really that planning and thinking ahead, to me, that touched me, that she really was thinking about those things, that she wanted her family to know that these are things that would still be important to me when I can't verbally tell you that.
And when we start mentioning that, that's a good segue, because we just ended this massive holiday season, as I call it.
Mhm.
Because truthfully, by the time we get from Thanksgiving, you in the Christmas holiday spirit for about 6 weeks. Truthfully,
Some
it's
longer,
the truth.
some
It's
longer.
the
I
truth.
still watched a Christmas movie last night.
God, that's a conversation.
I
I
knew
need
you would
more
love that.
therapy. I've been in therapy, so don't be rushing me, okay? I,
I knew you would love that. So yeah, yeah.
shit, one step at a time as we build this new cathedral. But anyway, that is a good segue, because truthfully, this disease is so sneaky that who you experienced in your life last year might not be who you are dealing with this year, due to the onset of the disease.
Mhm,
And sometimes the noises, the music,
mhm.
uh, it, the memory, all those things who Aunt Jane and Uncle Bill used to be might not be there when people come around, and it's hard for them to understand if they don't have any type of forewarning, or if they are aware of the new situation that might be taking place.
Well, one of the things in my support group we talked about, and we started, I think, in October, really talking about preparing for the holidays with the caregivers that I work with. And one of the things was to really talk to your family about any of those changes, but also to think about what will be the best opportunity during the holidays for your loved one who is living with dementia, because we don't always want to put people in a situation that would be uncomfortable just because that's where we want to be, right? And so really thinking about, is my loved one at a point that they can handle a family gathering of 20 people or 30 people, or is it more realistic if we do something maybe small and maybe we just have 5 or 10 people come over at a time and have, you know, fellowship that way. So even looking at different options, that everything, I know we love traditions, right? But everything doesn't have to look
Ooh,
the same,
Lord.
you know, have to look the same. You still have the traditions, but you may change the way you do the traditions. And so sometimes, you know, you ever receive those letters where people send you a letter and say what's been going on with their family for the last year and how the kids are grown and all that, that kind of thing. And so it could even be that type of thing. I even said to them, you can send out a letter to your family, which will give you an opportunity to kind of think it through a little bit and say, this is what's changed in our lives over this year. And as a result of that, the best way for us to be able to fellowship or to communicate over the holidays would be to do this or that, you know. So maybe having people come. The other part is that you don't have to stay the whole time. You know, maybe it's a shorter time of fellowship. I'm here for the dinner, and you know, we stay a little bit afterwards, but maybe we leave early as a part of that. So there's a lot of options that are there. It's just a matter of thinking those things through.
And I think what we're really trying to do on a consistent basis is give information on how to deal with this disease. And I think we also need the public to understand you're going to be dealing with dementia and Alzheimer's or one of these diseases under dementia as we continue to age. And that's the blessing. We're living longer, but we know for a fact, one of the things we know for sure is that dementia progresses as we grow older. And so the more information that we can get out to our community, the better. And we have to have different stages and platforms to do it, because this platform is one, but I know that we are really working hard as SACOA is the engine behind Dementia Friendly Indianapolis. And these memory cafes are something great that has come about. And we're 2 years in, coming up in April, on making that relevant. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So what I want to talk about are our dementia programs. And so one of our dementia programs is Dementia Friendly Indianapolis, which is an opportunity to educate businesses, faith communities, even social groups, fraternities and sororities around dementia, so that people understand exactly how to keep people engaged who may now be experiencing a life of living with dementia. The other part is that we have an action team, which is a great group of people who are in the field and people who have interests around dementia, who really look at what are some things we can do when we talk about bringing dementia to the streets. You know, so it's not just that it sits in a research office or at a doctor's office or anything like that, but what are some things that we can do in the community to keep engaging people and keep the eye out for people who are caregivers and people who are living with dementia. And our other program is Dementia Friends Indiana, which is statewide. And Dementia Friends Indiana is really a resource. It's an opportunity for a 1-hour session to really learn about the basics about dementia. So it really starts that conversation about the 10 warning signs. It also talks about how do you communicate, but it also talks about how then do we engage people in all settings in our society. So whether that's at the bank, or whether you're at the grocery store and you see someone that may look like they may be a little confused about where they are, whether that's, you know, just in your day-to-day activities that you run into someone maybe at the Y, or you're out, you know, in the community, how then would you support someone that you may see that may be struggling a little bit? Because remember, not everyone that is living with dementia is diagnosed. Not everyone that's living with dementia is with family. Some people still live on their own because some days are better than others. So really, how do you support an individual in that sense? And then what are the resources that are available? So that's really what that Dementia Friends Indiana tries to do, is to make sure that you're getting the resources that are available to educate yourself, but also to know what to look for. So as a part of our Dementia Friends, we have memory cafes. And so memory cafes are an opportunity for the caregiver, our care partner, and the person living with dementia to come to a different setting. And what we say is basically you're leaving dementia at the door. We're not talking about dementia or anything like that, but we come in and we have an activity. So whether that activity is that, excuse me, we have someone from come in and do music for the group, or we had a drumming opportunity where everybody kind of played the drums. Is it an opportunity? I think what they did around Halloween was they painted pumpkins, you know, so it can really just be any type of opportunity that that comes together, being creative, doing something together, just because this is a different setting for the person living with dementia and the caregiver. Something they can do together. Oftentimes we hear caregivers and care partners say, I don't know how to keep them active at home, separate from taking them to a day adult or you going to a support group, right? So those things you're doing separately. But with a memory cafe, you can come together and do something that is enjoyable. That's an opportunity to meet other people. It's an opportunity to still become social. So we're really looking to engage those memory cafes in faith communities, because we know faith communities, first of all, have the space, right? They have the opportunity to bring people together. They also have a lot of embedded resources within the faith community. And so this is what we're looking at, is how can a faith community now have a memory cafe? The commitment is what that faith community decides. So if they want to do it once a month, if they want to do it once a quarter, they want to do it twice a year. It's really up to them. Some do it weekly. So it really just depends on the volunteer base. And what we do is we come in and help you get that started. But then at that point, to sustain it, is that community then would have volunteers or people from the community that would help them continue to sustain the memory cafe.
Denise, I just love it. And I love unscripted conversation, especially when we have something good to say. And you and I, most of the time, we say we're going to have a topic that we're going to talk about, but we're freestyling today. And I just listened.
I think we do that most times.
I was thinking about the caregiver and how the transferring to the caregiver is going to take place in the Faith Summit. And that beautiful queen who was living with her husband, her name is slipping me. What was her name?
Anita.
Jesus Christ, man.
She's powerful.
The simple truth of listening to a female dealing with her husband who was once vibrant, once Mr. Man, having now to be the caregiver of her husband, and the resources that are available and necessary, and how she had the blessings of having people around and being on top of the game. Yeah. Let's talk about the caregiver as we go into it, because she made so many different points about sometimes it's okay just to be tired and don't feel guilty about saying, I got to leave for about an hour and a half. I just have to leave.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so one of the things I want to say about that is she did an amazing job. It's amazing to me how many caregivers or care partners, and I'm going to talk about the difference between those statements, have been married for years, right? A lot of them have long-term marriages, 40, 50 years of being married. And so I always think, what a blessing, that you have that longevity in your marriage, and this person knows you well, but they're also committed to you, right? And so when she was talking about the fact that she had also cared for her mom, and then her husband was diagnosed after her mom passed, that's truly a long journey for a care partner. So it was really wonderful to hear how eloquently she said, I've learned that I need to take care of myself also in this process. And it's kind of like the same thing we say to parents. You're only as good to your children as when you're good to yourself, right? What you do for yourself to keep yourself energized and healthy makes you a better parent. It's the same thing for a caregiver and a care partner. Only what you do for yourself, your self-care, and the way that you take care of yourself makes you a better caregiver and care partner. So this terminology, when we're saying like caregiver and care partner, so it was interesting when the Richards were talking, and Pat said that her husband, Rafiq, was her care partner at this point. Awesome. And so you're going to hear that term more, because even in the state dementia strategic plan, care partner was the wording that they used. And so care partner being the fact that when a person's diagnosed, they're still pretty vibrant, right? They're still able to do things for themselves. They're still able to dress themselves. They're still able to maybe maintain their daily, activities of living. And so at that point, my care partner is my person, whoever that may be, whether it's a husband, whether it's a child, whether it's a friend, who now just helps me kind of guide me along, with some of the things that maybe I'm starting to show some deficits in. And so maybe it's the fact that it's hard for me to remember things right away. Well, my care partner is there to make sure that I remember to go to the grocery store, I remember to go to the bank, or I remember to, my doctor's appointments and those type of things. Now, as a person progresses in this process, Then it becomes more of a caregiving situation when now that I may have to help this person more with their activities of daily living. What does that mean? Activities of daily living mean now the person may need some assistance with their medication management. They may need some assistance with cooking. Maybe now we've decided mom can't cook anymore because she forgets to turn the stove off, or she goes in the other room and falls asleep. And so we won't, have her cooking. We'll make sure we get meals there. The other may be with waking up in the morning and getting ready, getting dressed, helping me get my outfit together, because I may not remember that it's 30 degrees outside, and I may put on, just a t-shirt and some shorts and then try to go out the door with a coat on, so really helping. So the caregiver then starts more of that guidance, and it becomes more real in the way that they have to provide the care for that loved one. Does that make sense?
Terminology is very important, and I'm so happy that you did the difference between the two, because that lends energy now to know where you need to fit in a person's life who might be dealing with that disease.
Exactly.
It's interesting that you mentioned it, because it's almost like, people say psychology and then some people say psychiatry, and we just don't know the differences. And when you do, you can get the better help that you maybe need in the quest for what you're seeking. Now, as we move forward, we know that outreach and awareness is valuable. And you mentioned the faith-based community. And one of the things that my brothers in the clergy, they have so much influence in the people that we are dealing with, the population and the demographic of people that we are dealing with. We talk about it all the time, and you laugh at me always talking about seniors and technology. And I'm telling the truth. We're in QR coding. We're not probably going to want to be seen on this video platform and all that stuff. So the clergy is so important now in reaching our community and how we are trying to best convey this information. And in your job, I've watched you diligently take this faith-based before you were a director. Oh, my sister. But anyway, people don't understand the difference between that. But anyway, before you were a director and was out here doing this, which leads to your great, position now with a little bit more influence, where do we need to go? How much more do we need to have our faith-based community involved in this message so they can come outside their walls from the traditions of how they've been used to dealing with the public?
Well, several things go through my mind with that question. One of the things is that even as we've talked to some faith communities about the memory cafes, sometimes we've said, well, let's back up and let's do a Dementia Friends session. Let's educate people first. Let's give them the resources. Let's talk about what this is, because just like you said, some people don't understand the difference even between Alzheimer's and dementia. What's Lewy body? What are all of these different names and terminologies that I'm hearing? So in that essence, we're looking at how do we first start just with the basics, and so having a Dementia Friends session to me is the basics, because it's a resource, right? And we're going to start the conversation. And so once starting the conversation, that helps to make it easier for people to now grasp exactly what is this? What are we talking about? Because we can't take for granted, just because we deal with this on a day-to-day basis, that everybody else knows about it. So even when it comes to the minister or the pastor of the church or the ministries of the church, understanding that, because I think that's important when you talk about, I always say that faith communities did care coordination before, care coordination became social work and in our community, because they were doing home visitations, taking communion, taking people meals. So what does that look like for a faith community when you're now going to a home of someone that has now been diagnosed with dementia? How do you still continue to engage with them? And I've talked to faith communities and said, continue to engage. Even if the person doesn't know your name and maybe not realize that you're even there, but leaving a token or a flower there or leaving a card, also could uplift their family member when they come to visit, to know that that faith community has not forgotten their loved ones. So that's one way. The other part is that we have this opportunity through our Compassion Connect, which we're doing with some faith communities, where we're actually bringing a community health worker into the faith community to be there to address issues that the faith community may find that comes to their door, and they may not know how to get these people to the right resources. And I've heard this over and over from ministers that, we just really need to know what the resources are. How do we connect people to the resources? Is there a person that can help us do that? So that's what we're doing through the Compassion Connect. So Compassion Connect is now at Living Word Baptist Church, which is over on 21st Street between Emerson and Sherman, I guess I would say. And so they are having that on the first Tuesday of the month. And so you can actually go to our website and see that. And I'll make sure we repost that so people can see those dates. We're also starting on the south side of the city through St. Mark Catholic Church and St. Jude Catholic Church. And we're looking at the second Wednesday to be at those facilities. And then our hope is to roll this out into the third community, which will be over at Pilgrim Baptist Church. And we haven't selected a day yet, but that will roll out in February. So I'm going to make sure that you have that information, because I know you're great at posting that information.
It's kind of what I do.
It'll also be on our, on our website, and I'll make sure that it's more prominent for people to find it. But also people can also reach me through this email that's on here, sequoia.org/faith, and I can send that information directly to people. So yeah, so we're really trying to look at various ways that we can do that. And in the spring, I'm already getting calls and requests for health fairs. So I think that's one thing that faith communities have tried to do, is to bring the resources to their communities and to their members through these health fairs. Now, what happens after the health fair is the key part, right? How do we continue
following up?
Yeah, engaged with those resources once they learn about them.
Now, we've got about 5 more minutes, and
Okay.
I want to give my sister some love, Athena Salisbury. As I mentioned, we're trying to build an ecosystem of all these partners in the community who are doing the same vein, but different ways to get to the destination. And CenterWell does some great work for seniors in the primary care field, and we've been talking to them about bringing the information that you have in the Alzheimer's Association and all of these great organizations, making sure that this information is put out there. And we've been talking about trying to get inside those organizations as well to convey this. Can you tell me anything about that?
Well, actually, just this week, and I want to say that because sometimes people think organizations are competing against each other and all. And so one of the things I want to say about the Alzheimer's Association is we have a great relationship with the Alzheimer's Association. I actually just met with them this week, and we're looking at our MOUs, which is our memorandum of understanding of how we continue to support each other.
Excuse me. Let me get my therapist and let her know that I'm going to work on this.
Okay.
Okay.
So now with CenterWell, through our dementia-friendly Indianapolis action teams that I mentioned, CenterWell has been a part of those action teams. So we started a memory cafe at the location that is called College Park. So I think it's over like at 86 and Michigan Road. So they've had a memory cafe for about 3 months, and now we're rolling it out to the Lafayette Square area, which I think they call Eagledale, which is over off of just, what is that, like 40 something and Lafayette
25 Lafayette Road.
Look at you. And so
I'm pretty popular over there with the senior sisters.
You're just popular where you go. So yes, I have been talking with Athena, and so we are doing our first memory cafe there January the 21st. And so we're doing a Dementia Friends session. Let me correct myself. We're doing our Dementia Friends session. Like I said, sometimes we have to start with that. So we're doing our Dementia Friends session there on January the 21st. And then from there, we're rolling out the Memory Cafe through the CenterWell. So we're really happy about this engagement and this relationship that we've developed with CenterWell. So yes, that's how we're continuing to get out into the community. We're looking for all of those opportunities to do that. And so if you're interested in your faith community becoming engaged, or even a partnership with your sorority or fraternity or social club or any of those type of things, we're willing to come out and provide that information for them.
And we're really encouraging, as you mentioned, all the sororities and the fraternities and anyone that's an organization that has an ear to the public. And we have to remember, and I'm going to say it one more time, anytime we're dealing with a population of 60 and up, the new technology is great, but it doesn't apply to all. So we have to be very, very diligent in remembering that as we try to get that information that can help them to the people. One more time, Denise Jones Harrington, if they want to contact you or be a part of some of the great programs that are happening with Sequoia, specifically in the faith-based community, how can they contact you, Queen?
All righty. So right there on the screen is the way that they can contact me. My personal email is djones@sequoia.org. So that's pretty easy as well. If you go to our website and you want a presentation, there is a form you can fill out there. And on the button, you can click Faith Community, and then that comes directly to me. I got one yesterday. So you can do an online connection as well, or you can always call the office and ask for how to contact us in the dementia community, dementia programs, faith and dementia program. I had to get it right. I was saying it backwards. So I always say faith and dementia programs.
They're going to get it. They will get it. Trust me.
Yeah.
And as mentioned before,
you can have
they can go
children.
to www.radio-next.tv and hit the Sequoia link and get all this information. My sister, Happy New Year. You know, I love you just tremendously. And thank you again for all you continue to do for our community and bringing this information.
You as well. You have a great day.
Talk to you soon. RadioNext.tv, Jumbo Love. That is.